Tells me with what we're talking about.
All right, we're live. Mellissa, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm really good. How are you?
Good. So Mellissa is my resident mindset specialist, qualified psychologist. She helps me out. We've had some good chats before, and this time of year is really awesome time to have a chat about mindsets. And I've set an 84-day challenge for everyone to kind of like challenge themselves with some physical fitness every day, to save some money, and to really start setting goals and of things that are actually going to move the needle forward in their life. I love this time of year. New year, new you, whatever. I can't stand the negativity, honestly, that surrounds it. And I love talking about goals and goal settings and people that are getting after things, because that excites me. I mean, if you're not moving forwards, what is there to look forward to in life? So I really like this stuff. How about you, Mel?
I feel like every January I commit to a new lifestyle something, and the first couple of weeks of January are always getting back into the gym, straightening out my diet. And so I'm full of optimism in January about this is going to be different. I'm going to do it better. So I agree. I like it. There's lots of enthusiasm and lots of momentum to follow through on some of those intentions.
Look, and I mean, and that's exactly why I made the challenge 84 days. So to me, that's a 12-week cycle. And I think what happens is because people only do it at the beginning of the year, like it's easy to fall off and not reassess and just reset your goals again, because it's the journey in that first 84 days where most people get some kind of success at the beginning, but then it falls away because of their not having a system to go back and go over it again and again. And I've kind of been trying to do lots of thinking about thinking, and I found out that actually had like a name for it the other day. Someone coined the term metacognition, and I thought it was awesome, because I really think we should all do more thinking about thinking and more trying to make ourselves more self-aware of all our strengths and weaknesses. So what are some of the things that you think the average person could do to become more aware of themselves and how they think about things, and maybe how to get out of their own road with some of the shitty belief systems that they may have?
So I think the first thing I want to talk about is something that you and I have spoken about before, this idea of defensive pessimism, about particularly when you're starting a new lifestyle regime. Like, we've got to have goals, we've got to celebrate successes, but we've also got to track our failures. Because when you set an intention and you don't follow through on it, we really want to understand what the barrier was, what got in the way. It's going to be a barrier next time. And so I'll send it through to you again, the link to the defensive pessimism worksheet. But I think 84 days is a great experimental period. Let's have a look at what works and what doesn't, and so keeping track of the things that are working. All right, I'm getting to those 6 o'clock sessions, but I'm not going to the four in the afternoon sessions. Why is that? And really unpacking, when I set an intention and I don't follow through, what are the barriers? What am I saying to myself? What am I kind of avoiding, and what's contributing to me not following through on that goal that I've set?
Yeah, and that's really important to know the barriers too, because it's like you can start to build, like there's a guy that wrote a book called Tiny Habits, and he talked about like removing some of those little barriers. It's like, what's your barrier? Oh, I forgot my shoes, so it's an excuse. So it's like, buy an extra set of shoes. Personally, I own a set of shoes that I leave at the gym, in my car, and at home, because I know not having the gear or not being organized is sometimes a barrier to me. So I have those things everywhere that I go. So if you know that, like, by the time you put your shoes on, you're going to go for that run, then always leave your running shoes on.
That's it. Yeah. And because if it's as convenient as possible, convenience actually makes a difference. So there's interesting research to show that if you say you leave work and there's a gym that's on the way home, or there's a gym that's 300 meters in the opposite direction, that you'll not go the opposite direction given the choice. So even that small convenience, like the thing I want to do is on the way to something else that I have to do, that convenience really helps us to follow through. So, I mean, I think we get the best success when we look at our failures. Every time you don't do something that you intend to, why was that? And really building our self-awareness about the barriers.
Yeah. What time are you sneaking the wrong snacks? And why are the wrong snacks available to you at that time? Like I could eat a whole packet of Tim Tams, no worries.
Yeah. So I mean, food's a really interesting one, because what the research says is 97% of diets fail, which is ridiculous because it's the most common medical intervention that doctors will recommend. But there's no other medical intervention with such a high failure rate. Like, imagine you had a problem with your kidneys and they're like, oh, we can send you off for this procedure, but 97% of the time it doesn't work. So what does work is doing the same thing for the rest of your life, like whatever it is that you choose to do. And so people have got to be careful about short-term wins with diets, because if you change too much of the behavior and it's too restrictive, well, the body just it rebounds, and so why are you eating those snacks? Well, is it because you didn't actually have enough for lunch, and backtracking to make sure that people are having like a well-rounded diet, that's giving them enough energy to support them throughout the day.
Yeah, people do seem to guard their lifestyles as well too. Like, I mean, I think you might have more problems than just food if you're seeking mouth pleasure to kind of fix all your problems too. So being self-aware to know where the problems actually are real important, because we've only got so much willpower. It's something that I really believe in. So setting up your environment for success is real super important. So I would consider myself disciplined, but I wouldn't consider myself having a huge amount of willpower. I kind of set the environment correct for myself. If I'm dieting and trying to lose weight, I make kilos on kilos of jerky, or buy kilos and kilos of jerky to have it in the house, because without it there, I lack the willpower to like not snack on other things that are convenient. So that's a really big hack for me, and people shouldn't be ashamed of having difficulty doing that, because I think next to water, like eating, we're all going to eat. It's one of your first urges that you're going to have. So being able to set yourself up for those lifestyle changes is important. And there's lots of belief systems that get in people's road about changing it too, which is one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this, because often people get injured and they're like, oh, I can't lose weight because I can't exercise. And that's just a bullshit belief system. Like, it's not surrounded by any science whatsoever. Like, if you still hit the correct calorie goals for the day, you can still lose weight even if you're not walking, running, or lifting weights or doing anything. So you would have to have like a really severe injury to let that get in the road. What can someone who believes something silly like that do to kind of like knock that out of their head?
I think getting specialist advice is important. We've got a good literacy around diet, but actually, if it was easy, we'd be making the changes already. And so I'm always loath to work with someone about their diet itself, because obviously that's out of my skill set, and referring to a dietitian is pretty important there, so that they've got a coach who's across the literature and the best practice, and can support them in those small, gradual, regular changes that they need. So I think consulting with the right expert is helpful in that space.
And you knocked it on the head again. Small, gradual changes, right? Like, don't try and do everything at once.
That's it. My favorite line from a client was he was talking about quit smoking and it's stop start, and he goes, it's kind of like trying to push over a vending machine. You can't push it over in one go. You've got to get a bit of a rock up. And I like that idea with lifestyle changes. Like, you've got to Like, get your gym routine down pat, like work on that, and then increase the amount of vegetables, or like just change one thing at a time instead of trying to do everything in one go if it's a huge change from how you're already doing business.
Yeah, 100%. Like, even just knowing what calories are in your food a little bit is difficult. And like after a while, tracking can become fairly intuitive. So there's a bunch of different systems. We have a bunch of different systems that we use at the gym. We have, gourmet recipe books. I have modular meal plans where you can pull things in and out however you like. So it really puts the onus back on the person to be educated and to start pulling the levers themselves.
Yeah. So a couple of recommendations. So there's a book that I really like. I can't remember who the author is, but it's called Mindless Eating: All the Ways That We Mindlessly Eat a Little Bit More Than We Ought to. And it's stuff that we know already. Like, if you're watching TV, you'll eat a lot more than if you sit down and just have a meal and you're focusing on your meal. But it's things like the size of the plate, the size of the spoon, how much you actually prepare. Things like if you've got lollies, for example, and you leave them in a jar, putting a lid on the jar will reduce how many you eat. Putting the jar behind a cupboard door will reduce how many you eat. Like, just little things that can shift perspective from those choices where it's automatic and you're not making a conscious choice to eat.
Now, when people are looking to make lifestyle changes and they want to be healthier and they keep getting dragged back to an old life or old negative influences, what's something that people can do to help pull themselves away from those things? Because that can be tough sometimes, like if your house refuses to eat healthy, and you're like thinking, oh, I go to find some new roommates, or or my partner's being real negative and not supportive. What are some things people can do to deal with those situations? Because that's tough.
It's really tough because your environment is so powerful. It has such a big influence on the choices that we make. I think it starts with direct conversations with the people around you, where you're making this verbal commitment. This is what I want to do. You can do your thing, but this is what I'm going to be doing. To make it very clear that that's your intention. And they can choose to do their own thing, but as long as they're not trying to entice you into their lifestyle choices, I think that you can still have your own, even in an intimate relationship. I think, unfortunately, it means a bit more independence around some of those choices. Usually we like doing things with our other half, but it probably means in the early stages that you make a choice that you're getting out of bed at a different time, that you're eating at a different time. And unfortunately, the consequence of that is going to be disconnection in the relationship, but it might give you enough kind of independence to be able to stick to those goals. Because it is hard, willpower, I agree with you, it's a finite resource, we don't have oodles and oodles of it. And it's really hard when your other half goes, oh, let's just get pizza for dinner, to be able to go, actually, I'd rather cook a meal or do something a bit more nutritious.
Yeah. And if you are doing those things, like you can still have pizza night, but you then save some calories in the bank for pizza night by, the morning before eating light or the day after eating light. You don't have to let one meal rule these things. So having a flexible plan can often be really, really helpful.
Well, on that, that really speaks to one of the big problems with diets, is that you become very black and white in your thinking. You're on the diet or you're off the diet, and there's different rules that apply given whether you're on the diet or off. And because diets are so restrictive, you start to label food as bad. This is good food, this is bad food. And actually, food's got no moral value. It's just got different nutritional value. And you can eat food with low nutritional value without being ashamed of it. It just doesn't make up the majority of your diet. But if you can kind of step back and think about it, like, what is the purpose? You know, losing weight tends to contribute to this black and white thinking. But if it's important to be healthy, to fuel your body correctly, you know, then you can be a bit more flexible about, like, I'm going to choose this food because it's got better value for me nutritionally, rather than this is bad and I'm on a diet so I can't. Because what happens is when you have that cheat meal and you're like, all right, well, I've stopped it now, so I'm just going to eat mud cake, and then I'm going to go through Macca's and I'm going to get 3 cheeseburgers. Like, when you're off the diet, people don't put any effort into making mindful choices about what they eat. So it's hard to kind of shift the language around it, but I mean, dieting as a mental concept creates a lot of problems where it leads to that last supper effect. And yeah, it really causes problems with how you categorize your behavior in different types of food.
Yeah, and you don't, like, we don't all need to have 6-packs either. You just need to be happy in your own skin, fitting into the pants that you want to fit into, so you feel good and you're actually healthy and you have less chance of cancer. And I mean, right now, especially with, the risk of COVID coming to a city near you, is like, you need good cardiovascular health, and you need a nice, healthy set of lungs as well. There's so many more benefits than how you look and exactly what weight you are. That being said, there isn't a doctor in the world that's going to tell you if you fall on the obesity level on the scale that you're healthy. Unfortunately, you open yourself up to a whole heap of diseases if you like that. So we want to get everybody to a healthy weight, but that the whole idea that you need to look like someone on the front of a fitness magazine is absolutely ridiculous.
And to be honest, I disagree with that a little bit. You know, there's obviously weights at which it is unhelpful and that you do have a lot more risk of disease. But I think about my own circumstance. Doctors are always telling me I'm overweight. The last time I went to the knee surgeon, he said losing weight will help you. I'm like, fuck off, dog. Like, I work out, I eat well, and I'm strong and I'm fit. And actually, the focus on losing weight doesn't help me to lose weight. Yep. But I'm much healthier and happier focusing on what my body can do, not what my body can weigh. So yep. I think you get a little bit caught up in I've got to be skinny when actually we've got to be healthy.
Yep.
And I think if that can be the focus, people are much happier and much more committed to their lifestyle choices.
Yeah, which does take a huge amount of commitment to setting things up. What are some of the support networks that you've set up for yourself for this year?
So I love my gym. You and I have spoken about my gym previously. Just going to a place where you get along with other people, you know, you're around like-minded people. It's just so validating in and of itself. You know, so being part of a community with shared values is so important there. Tommy and I, when my other half is just as committed to healthy lifestyle, that's where we really see results. And he's in the same headspace at the moment, so that's really helpful too.
Yeah, it does. It is helpful to try and include people in that. So definitely something that my wife and I do when I kind of start stamping my feet, and I'm like, we're drinking and eating too much again. You know, like the house gets cleaned up a bit, but you know, like, we're not going to all of a sudden give up drinking forever or give up bad food forever. But I feel like it does pay to sit down as a family and say, hey, you know, we can all be a little bit healthier, because in the long run, you guys are going to be the ones sitting next to each other's hospital beds later when things go wrong. Anyway, I feel like it's an investment in your future.
Yeah, we're doing dry January, Tommy and I, and it's harder than I expected, to be honest. We just needed a circuit breaker after Christmas festivities, which took up a lot of December. And I feel 100% better already. So, I mean, I'm really looking forward to, the first weekend in February. There's no doubt. But it's so much easier to go to the gym on Monday morning and to cook dinner and, just by removing one aspect for a short period of time.
Yeah, it does. It does definitely drain your life, and I've definitely done about 12 months once where I didn't drink at all. And when I look back at that 12 months, I achieved a lot of amazing things inside that 12-month period. And I would strongly encourage anyone out there who feels like that they have a problem with drinking to start challenging themselves, and maybe starting with a month or 3 months, or if you have a really bad problem, that tell yourself a year, take a year off it, and then compare that year to your previous years, and tell me if your life didn't improve or not.
Absolutely. Yeah, the bank account's improved already.
Yeah, which is nice as well. So it was one of the reasons I really wanted to bring a holistic challenge for everyone, because when we get injured, like, at least you can focus on food. So I've asked everyone for the 84 days to commit to some kind of nutrition plan, and I've shared some calorie cycling nutrition plans, but it really doesn't matter what it is. I don't care. Keto, vegan, whatever, fill your boots, but just have a think about what's going into your mouth for the next 84 days and how it affects your body. Then some kind of fitness, even if it was just a 10-minute walk every morning, but making sure that you exercise every day, and then saving some money. And I feel like those three things are the things that control your lifestyle, like how much money you earn and what you save and what you do with it. So just having some kind of small thought about that will hopefully get the needle moving forward for everyone. And I'm not sure that there's any programs really out there like that at the moment. Like, if people are feeling stuck, or they feel like they had a bad year, or they never have enough money and they're not fit enough, and all these things can kind of work together in unison to kind of create a really good year for yourself.
I highly recommend the Barefoot Investor for if people want to kind of get back to basics with a budget. Like, that changed my financial outlook 100%. It's a really easy book to read, steps you through how to create like a budget which allows you to enjoy the things that you like in life. So it's things like, if you love coffee, then let's factor that into the budget and build things around it, but still saving here and investing there. And it's just, I mean, it's a life skill that we don't necessarily have automatically. So again, like a bit of specialist advice, and that's a really great book for those who want to kind of review their finances but not really sure where to start.
Absolutely, and great for your relationship as well. So if you're fighting with your spouse about money all the time, if someone's a bad saver or not, you got to commit to a system together, and that can solve a lot of problems. So yep, I've been through that book as well, and I do agree it is a good recommendation for everyone, and it will allow you to then spend money where you need it. Like whether it be on a gym membership, or a personal trainer, or someone holding pads for you, or an online nutrition program, whatever it is, it's going to free you up to not feel like the rest of your lifestyle is a cost.
Because that's what it's about. We work to live, actually. And if you never get to enjoy your money, well, I mean, you just feel hopeless about ever getting out of your circumstances.
Yeah, you got to enjoy now. And I think sometimes feel like maybe fitness and eating well is about, like, not enjoying now. Like, it's some kind of sacrifice to not enjoying now. But if I'm really good with my nutrition 5 days a week, man, geez, I can enjoy a decent weekend. You've got 5 good days versus 2 not good days. You could even be continually getting fitter, stronger, and healthier on that 5 and 2 cycle. So once you start thinking a little bit more clearly like that, it's actually going to help you enjoy life a little bit more, because you're not going to be feeling sick and tired all the time. You're not going to be feeling down on yourself all the time, because you're spending 5 days being really productive. So I feel like if you want to stick to some kind of plan, there has to be some kind of positive movement forwards as well. If you're not getting positive feedback from your fitness training or your martial arts training or your nutrition, you need to seek out help so you can move that needle forward. So I was having a chat to Ray Kelly the other day, who runs programs for diabetics to get off insulin, and he's a really good nutritionist. And one of the tricks they use to making people compliant is making sure that they get them some quick wins.
Yeah.
You know, they get them some quick wins. They book them in for their first session and say, here, we're going to get some quick wins. And then they show them some immediate results. And then they make sure that they book another appointment and then show them some immediate results again. And it also opens up the opportunity to have a chat and do some of that problem solving, where, okay, what happened?
Good work. Yeah.
You know, what do we do? How do we move forward? How do we fall off the wagon this week?
Yeah. I think one of the things that I wish I learned as a kid when it came to food was about listening to your body. Like we've got so many rules, and I grew up with a mum who was always on a diet of some sort. So everything about food was rule-based. Instead of, are you hungry? Well, eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full. You know, and eat when you're a little bit hungry, not when you're ravenous, because when you're ravenous, you're going to want that Big Mac. But when I'm a little bit hungry, well, then something more nutritious is going to be appetizing. And tuning in, like, how do you feel after you eat different types of foods? You know, and so really tuning into the messages that your body is sending you, because your body's not the enemy when it comes to food. Actually, it's sending you really important information about what's good for you and when to stop. And if we can trust our body, the same way we trust it when it says you need to go to the toilet, we don't get that message from our body. Like, so if there was one thing that I could have learned earlier in my life, it would be like tuning in and being much more mindful about food, about what do I feel like, how do I feel when I've eaten that? Am I actually hungry, or am I thirsty, or am I eating because I'm stressed and I need to feel a bit better? You know, I think we can do a lot to tune into the messages that our body sends us about what to eat.
Yeah, and that's a difficult thing for people to do too, right? Because they think that maybe, you know, like I have to reach for the lollies to stay awake right now, because they've ingrained that belief system in their head that lollies keep them awake when they're on night shift, which is incorrect. You're tired because you're on night shift. you know, like, and there's no food that's going to wake you up.
Yeah. That food is entertaining you. It's not getting you alert. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, you know, it takes a certain amount of education and self-awareness for people to understand that, like, it's a bad habit to snack on lollies over night shift while you're bored and tired, and thinking that like somehow that, you know, like you've either got your calories in, and if you're not, and if you're tired, you're just tired. Like sometimes you're just tired. My advice to people who are trying to break those habits too is that you need to replace it with another habit. So sometimes just swapping bad food for good food, and, you know, like, you know, I keep, you know, a protein source instead of lollies, you know, to make sure that your body's repairing from whatever exercise you're doing is a good hack. And we all know protein satisfies you and fills you up much quicker. It also helps regulate your insulin a little bit, so you don't get those huge spikes of hunger coming back after you eat. So there's a bunch of different things that you can do. If you're super honest with your coaches and trainers, they'll probably be able to tell you the foods that will help fill you up a little bit more, you know. And if you're sitting at home at night, you know, like, and you want to eat, and you're sitting in front of the TV, don't feel bad about eating a bowl of fruit, you know. Have heaps of fruit in the house, and try not to have chips and all these other foods in the house that, you know, are real dense in calories, but you could quite easily eat a bag of chips, you know.
Yeah. Well,
Which could cost you lots.
The recommendation is, like, from that mindless eating, you know, is put the fruit, put the things that you should be eating in this really accessible place where you're walking past it constantly, because you're much more likely to pick it up and snack on it then. So the availability, because the problem is if something's out on the counter, you've got to make a decision 1,000 times to not eat it. And so if it's something that's got low nutritional value, you know, that's why, you know, the bowl of lollies calls to you when you're on the couch. You've got to keep recommitting to eating it. But if it's something that you should be eating, we'll put it in these places where it's accessible so that you're much more likely to grab it as an automatic choice.
Yep. Yep. I like that. So, you know, probably some really big takeaways from this one is make sure that, like, your gyms are in convenient locations, either near work, near home, or somewhere in between. Really makes getting adherence to getting to classes and training. Make sure it's with a bunch of people that you like, so it's fun. Try it out, meet the people. Make sure you keep training fun and lighthearted. You don't have to do burpees till you vomit. If you feel like you're going to vomit, feel free to stop and work on your fitness and come back and try again the next day. There's no prizes for being the sickest or sorest at training. It doesn't do you any good whatsoever. Okay, yeah. And set up your environments for success. Remove the cruddy food from the house. Put the good stuff in there. And if there is a time that you're making mistakes, instead of beating yourself up about it, record it and then seek some advice on some of the steps that you could take to replace that habit with another one.
So I'd also add to that and say, if you're going to eat something that you think is bad, then savor it. Like, really enjoy it, because it's going to happen anyway. So you may as well get all of the pleasure you can out of it. Savor it, enjoy it, and then reset. Like, and be proud of yourself for having a pleasant experience. Still making good choices for the remainder of that day.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be the end of the world where you then self-sabotage the rest of your weekly experience.
Yeah,
100%. I appreciate your time today, Mel. It was good that we were able to hook up again and have a little bit of a chat. And I wish you luck on all your new gym. And tell Tommy I tell him not to quit ever.
He's good. We're at our own separate gyms. That's the thing that we had to figure out, because we're a bit too competitive when we work out with each other, and it causes arguments. So he's got his gym, I've got mine. Happy days.
All right. Excellent. Thanks, Mel.
Thanks for having me.